A tumult of flesh, bodies piled up on top of one another in an endless seething mass, writhing, teeming, fermenting, a foment, torment, a throbbing, seething miasma, a formless, disorganized mess of disconnected body parts entangled and ungainly, hair, teeth, limbs, eyes, mouths, torsos. The whole tower is unstable and looks as though it may topple at any moment. Welcome to the human carnival, a carnival of the grotesque, a procession of freaks, unique and disturbing, one and all. It's an endless train of bodies of all shapes and sizes, and here, in this microcosm, I find myself hemmed in amongst them, a scared observer trapped in the midst of the carny parade of bearded children, cyclopses, lumbering giants, screaming cadavers, the living dead, the Neolithic hulks of flesh, mountainous beings, deformed and distorted, rippling rolls of flesh, aprons hanging down over their shriveled and shrunken nether regions, deprived of air or light. They clamber over one another in their eternal quests for food, space, seats, storage for their luggage, bouncing to and fro, lugging their devolved and degenerated carcasses with great difficulty, rubbing shoulder to shoulder with one another. It's every man, woman and child for themselves. There is no end. And so it goes on, relentlessly, mercilessly. This is not some finely honed machine, pulsating hearts and respiring lungs and skin and secreting glands working in unison for the same unified end. There is no extrinsic, universal or even wider commonality, no synchronization, no organization, no coordination. Instead of harmony, it's anarchy, a riot of cells, unruly and uncoordinated, disjointed and disconnected, dissociated, spreading and multiplying and growing with no concept and no concern for the long-term outcome, namely an explosion not only of population in broader terms, but, more immediately, an explosion of living, breathing tissue, meat, muscle, bone and intestinal tract, heart, lungs, livers, kidneys, cartilage and gristle, pancreas and sinews, nerves and floating clots drifting down over corpuscles and narrow clogged salt-filled fat-lined channels, nerves frayed and begging for mercy, gonads, subcutaneous fats, pigments, ovaries, hair, skin and undifferentiated tissue, mutated cancerous cells, etc., all cosseted in layer upon layer of fat, fetid, yellow, thick and putrid. And the aroma of it all, the scent of sweat, of stale urine, of decaying flesh, the stench of humanity, packed into a confined space. No milk of human kindness here, just the incessant gurgling of intestinal fluids, the slurping of syrupy drinks from plastic cups through straws, and the splash of excrement in uneasy colons and brimming bladders. It's no easy ride, and while man may be a social animal, when forced into close, uncomfortably tight, hemmed-in close proximity with fellow humans, strangers, for a protracted period of time, those social tendencies are more likely to manifest themselves as borderline sociopathic tendencies. Empathy dissolves as every passenger fights for their seat, their space, the safety of their own luggage, the last sandwich on the mobile refreshment trolley, the last piece of toilet paper in the flooding shared facilities that they have to queue outside for half an hour, while someone selfish dithers over their defecations and then proceeds to leave the pipe half blocked and the tap running. And so the hiccuping aggravation begins, and it's anything but pretty. The gnashing of teeth, the heavy sigh, the gasping, the weaving, the huffing, the the foaming at the mouth, the wheezing, these are the sounds that permeate the air and congeal with the clamorous chatter of conversation, the ringing of mobile telephones, the hissing of cans of lager and pop being opened and poured down the gullets of an ever-fattening nation. The sounds, the smells of the fetid blubber, the blocked and steaming glands, the digestive juices, bubbling volcanically, rumbling in the depths of the land whales that are dank, unsettling, somehow unnatural, but all too natural, and all too real. The scene is repeated endlessly on lines across the nation. This journey is in no way special. This particular train ride simply represents a microcosm of the broader society, Western civilization, global civilization. Each man and woman, child, being of indeterminate gender, is an island. Each island possesses its own infrastructure, the biological mechanisms keeping each island functioning, but how efficiently? Each island differs, but one thing is clear. Across these islands there is a continent-wide crisis. The land masses, these fragmented, fractured pieces of land floating on the infinite sea of life, are slowly sinking. They're overpopulated, congested, badly polluted. The consumption is unsustainable in the long term. But the governments of these islands, which have all declared independence from one another, are oblivious or otherwise simply unwilling to act. Each individual, the term being applied loosely, as each very much resembles another, or indeed almost all of the others, is thus a microcosm, a micro-labyrinth within a global labyrinth, which exists but as a speck of dust in the cosmic scheme, the infinite labyrinth which exists far beyond the conception of anyone on this sinking raft. There is a mid-range hum, the babble of empty conversation about clothes, shopping, stocks and shares, business meetings, lunch, parties, domestic issues and arrangements. He said, she said, I said, and it was like, and I was going, and it's incessant, never-ending, and relentlessly inane, facile, purposeless, beyond filling the silence. There is never silence. Never a second passes in pure, perfect silence. Just for a moment, try to actually imagine true silence. It's impossible. There's also a high-end conglomeration of sounds. The air conditioning, the wind as it rushes down the length of the carriages, cut through by the aerodynamically shaped engine as it races forward, the scrape of metal against metal as wheels grind in circular contact with the tracks. And to complete the frequency spectrum there is a dull roar of the engine and, barely audible but just there, just discernible in the hubbub and racketous clamour of everything else, the deep, dark, pulsating rumblings of blood circulating. A tide of pulses, a sea of blood, all coming together. Pulsating organs coated in a thick layer of fat, choking, struggling against the odds and against biology to function, to sustain the host. It's a losing battle, a seething mass of free-floating cholesterols, carotid arteries, furred lungs and sluggish thyroid glands, tired enlarged hearts pumping, working overtime and on the brink of explosion. Outside, the sky darkens rapidly, from deep blue smudged with traces of blackness like soot, before coming engulfed by treacle, running down, descending in a matter of minutes to smother the land. But this journey will go on forever, not only here, but the world over, until the world ends, or humanity ceases to exist.